If you've ever built a website for a client with WordPress and they've logged into the standard WordPress dashboard and caused all kinds of problems, well, you know how frustrating that can be. On the other hand, there are times where you may want to build a site and have several people collaborating and adding simple content to the site, but not give them access to the dashboard at all. In this video, I'll show you how you can build your own custom front-end dashboard for clients and users without breaking the bank. In fact, the only paid tool you need to follow along is Elementor Pro, and that's simply because we need the dynamic tags option. All of the other plugins are 100% free. Now, if you're ready to follow along and build a more focused and unique front-end dashboard for your WordPress clients, let's start by taking a look at what we'll be building, and then we'll follow on and take a look at the tools we need to actually get started. So this is our very simple custom dashboard that only displays the posts that we've created and that have been approved by an admin. As you can see, we've got some nice, simple, clean options. Add a post. You've got your site home to take you back to your site. Your dashboard, which will bring you back to this section. List posts, which will show all of the posts if you have a lot of posts. And finally, the new post, which is basically the same as the add post option on the left-hand side. Come down underneath then, you can see we've got each individual article or post we've created, and if I click edit post, it'll take me in and I can start editing the content of that post in a nice, simple, clean editor, and then I can update or I can delete directly from inside here. So this is what we're going to create in this simple dashboard option. But even though this is pretty simple and straightforward in what we're going to create, you can do a lot more than just this. And if you upgrade to the Pro version, well, I've already created a really comprehensive tutorial on how you can create a much more advanced dashboard where you can create custom post types, normal post types, edit your user profile, and loads more. So if you want to check that out, link will be in the description. However, for a lot of use cases where you just don't want people to have access to the dashboard of WordPress and you just want to allow them to create content, edit content, delete content, and so on that's associated with their own user account, this should be a really simple option. And apart from Elementor Pro, which we need to have, everything else is absolutely free. So like I say, Pro is the only option you have to pay for, everything else totally free. So let me just show you what we're going to be using now. We've got ACF front end, which allows us to create this sort of front end dashboard side of things. Advanced custom fields, the free version, you have to have this installed for ACF front end to work. Advanced post queries, because it allows us to apply some extra queries to filter things out based upon the user that's logged in, which is really useful and again, totally free. Content control to restrict access to the dashboard section without needing to touch any code. Elementor Custom Skin, so we can create a custom skin based loop, and Elementor and Elementor Pro for the obvious reasons. Okay, so let's go through and start building things. So let's kick this off by creating the first couple of pages we need. Let's add a new page in, and we're simply going to call this dashboard, and we'll just publish that page. Take this off and just publish it. Now we're going to create 3 more pages. So we're going to add a new page, and we're going to call this edit post, publish that, we're going to do one more which is called all posts, and we'll publish that. And finally we'll add our third page which is called add post, and we'll publish that. Okay, so now that we've done that, the next thing we want to do is set up the permissions for who can actually access this information, these pages, and restrict them from prying eyes. To do that, we're going to be using the content control plugin that we've installed. So what this allows us to do is just basically set up what pages can be accessed by what level and what we want to do if they do or don't have access. So we're going to add a new restriction, and we're just going to set this up to be dashboard restrictions. Who can see this content? Logged in users, and then we can choose which roles we want to allow to have access to this particular content. So we're going to say administrator, author, and editor. We're going to leave the subscriber and the contributor out, so anybody that's associated with those levels can't access this particular section. Next up, we've got the protection, and this is choose how to protect your content. We've got redirect or custom message, and we've got where will they be taken, login and back, homepage, custom URL. So it's up to you how you want to deal with this. I'm going to leave this as redirect and login and back, and then we're going to jump to content, and we're going to specify what we want to have in here. So it says is a post, which is not what we want. So we're going to expand this out, delete that, expand that out, and we're going to come down and we're going to say is a selected page. So we can say a selected page, and we can choose what page or pages we want. So we've got edit post, we've got dashboard, and we should have all posts. And finally, we'll add the add post option. And that's the sections now that we want to restrict access to within inside our site. If you want to get more creative, and like I say, if you add more pages, you just need to remember to come in and add those in to what is and isn't allowed to be accessible. We'll hit add on there, and that's our restriction all set up. If you want to edit that at any point, you can simply come back into edit, make any changes you need to. Okay, so that's that. We'll hit save changes on there, and we've now set up the conditions to stop people that don't have access to that trying to get in there. So let's just quickly test this out now, just to make sure that everything is working as we expect. So this is our demo site. We're on the home page. We're going to click to it, the dashboard, and we don't have access because it's redirecting us through to the login section. So if we just log in, that'll take us into our dashboard, which currently is empty, obviously, but we've got that all working now, so we can see everything is set up the way we want it to. Okay, so let's start building out these pages. Let's start off with our dashboard first of all. So we're going to come in and edit that. We're going to edit with Elementor. Once we've opened that up, we're going to set a few things up before we even start. We're going to come to the settings and we're going to disable the title. We're also going to specify this page layout is going to be the canvas because we don't want the header and the footer. We want a completely blank layout because obviously things inside the dashboard are going to be different to what the front end of the site looks like. So with that being said, we need to create our own custom header section. So we'll start by adding in a section, and we're going to just set this to be 3 columns, 1 row. Making sure that's selected, we're just going to come in and we're going to specify the vertical line is going to be middle, so everything will line up in the middle. We're going to squish this over to about 15% on the right hand side, and we're going to just drop in an image inside there. So let's just grab an image. We'll drop that up into there. What we're going to do is going to set this up to be a dynamic value. So we're going to hit this dynamic tags option, and this allows us to access all the dynamic information to do with our site and various different aspects. So what we're going to do is we're going to just choose the user profile picture. And there's my picture. So you can see that's now being pulled in. So all we're going to do is just style that however we want. Now you're not limited to using this profile picture. If you want to, you can do other things. You've got various different options. Come back out, you can see we've got local avatar, we've got local avatar, we can use an ACF image. You can do lots of different things, but like I say, we're going to keep this to the user profile picture because that just links it through to my gravatar. We're going to come into style, and from there we're going to just choose to put a border radius, and we're going to set that to be percentage and 100, and that will create a nice round shape. And if you want to put a border around that, you can do, and obviously if you want to adjust the size of this, you can do just that as well. So I'm going to make this just a little smaller, maybe. Let's go for pixel value inside there. Set that to around about 65, somewhere around there. That should look good. Okay, we're going to put a border around that. We can do what we want with it. So I'm going to say a border type, solid. We're going to put a 3 pixel border around it. And we'll just quickly change the color on that to the color I want to use. And then we're going to apply this to our global colors. And we'll just set that to orange. Create that. So we've now got a global color we can reference. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this video showing you how to style things, because if you're following along with how to create a custom dashboard, I'm sure you're more than accustomed to working with Elementor and Elementor Pro styling features to do all those kinds of things. So I'm going to go through those quite quickly and probably just apply styles that I already have saved just to speed the process up so you can get to the good bits. Okay, so let's just squish this over a little bit as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab a button, and we're going to place a button to the left hand side, and we'll style that in a second. And we're also going to come in and we want the menu, we want nav menu, and we're just going to drop that into the main area, set that to the right hand side, and we'll just set up a few parameters on there a little later, because at the moment this is not the menu we want to use. We need to create a custom menu for this, and we'll apply that a little later, so don't worry about that just yet. Okay, let's just quickly change this button now to make a bit more sense, and we're just going to say add a post. And from there, we're just going to link this through to, add post. So there's our post page. Okay, so all we need to do now is just quickly change the coloring and so on in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to style and apply our global color. So we're going to change that background color to a global orange. Okay, so that's the basics of that done. Next thing we're going to do is just put in our bio section. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to add in another section. We're going to set this to be 3. And we can just adjust this if we want to. So we're going to set this first section a bit smaller, like so, roughly. Doesn't really matter too much. You can style this, like I say, as much as you want. Let's just add in some spacing around this as well. So let's come into advanced. We're going to drop some padding in the top of, let's try 50 top, 50 bottom. That should do to start off with. Okay, so now we can go in and set up whatever things that we want to. So let's just say, for example, you wanted to drop in a larger version of your avatar inside there. Well, you could do that just simply by dropping the image in, choosing the dynamic option, choosing the user profile picture, and doing the same thing again. So we can adjust the size on that if we want to. Go to styling, border radius, and we're going to set that to percentage, 100. And we're just going to make this a little bigger. There we go. Change that to percentage, I should say. Okay, so it doesn't look great quality, but let's not worry too much about that. And the same again. We're going to just drop a solid border around that, 3 pixels, set our color to orange. Okay. Next up, we want to put some bio information in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop in a heading to start off with. Change this to dynamic. And this is the beauty of this, is all this information is dynamic. We're just creating this sort of structure for this information. And this is what I love about using dynamic info. So we're going to come down to user info this time, and we're going to click on the little wrench icon, and from there we're just going to choose the display name. And depending upon what the display name is, you can see that's been set up on there. Now obviously you can change your display name in your bio, very easy to do. Next up, we're going to drop in another piece of information. So we're going to come back to our widgets, we're going to do another heading. This time we're going to set this as something like H6, and we're going to come into our dynamic info, back down to our user info, and this time click on the wrench icon, we're just going to come down and choose the email. And there you go, there's the email. And the final thing we're going to do is just drag this text editor into there, and dynamic tags again, down to user info, and from there we're going to choose the bio. Okay, so that's the basics of the page laid out. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to quickly run through and style these, and then we're going to come back and take a look at moving on to the next stage. You can style this in any way you want. So just bear with me and I will be back soon. Okay, so now we've created the header and the navigation. We're now ready to move on to start building out the actual list of posts. To do that, we're just going to create a new section inside here. And inside there, we're going to drop in a title, which we're just going to call latest posts. Again, we'll style that a little later. Okay, so before we can move on, we need to create some way of listing the posts for this particular logged in user. Now to do that, we're going to use a plugin called Elementor or LE Custom Skin. This allows us to very easily create a loop layout that we can then do whatever we want to with it. So let's do that next. Now to create our custom loops, we need to go back into the theme builder. And from the theme builder, you'll see at the top, we've got a new tab called Loop, and this is for Elementor Custom Skin. If you're using the new theme builder as part of Elementor, you can click and you'll see Loop is the first item inside there. All we need to do is click on the plus, and that will then allow us to start working with Elementor to create this new loop. So we're going to close this down because we're going to start working from scratch. We're going to do a couple of things. We're going to come into the settings section, and from there we're going to give this a name, because this is one of those areas inside Elementor. If you're using the new theme builder and you don't set the title up at this point, you have to do it afterwards, and it can cause some kind of confusion. So we're just going to call this Dashboard Post Loop. So we're just going to drop that inside there. That's what we want. Now we can start creating things. Now you can ignore the header, the title, the footer. All those things are basically going to be ignored when we actually call this loop up and use it in our design. So forget all about those things. If we go to preview settings, you can choose what you want to actually preview. So if you've got custom post types, you could preview those inside here to make sure everything looks the way you want. And if you want more information about how to use the loop function as part of Elementor Custom Skin, I've got a load of tutorials on it, so I will drop a link in the description so you can check those out after you finish with this video. Okay, so what we're going to do, going to come back over, and we're going to start building out exactly what we want to display. So we're going to grab the post title, drag and drop that onto our page, and you can see this will pull our sample post in, which is fine. I've got a sample post installed in here just to test things out. I'm going to change this to something like H3, come back, going to use the post content or the post featured image, whatever you kind of want. So we're going to grab this featured image, we'll drop that in there. We can reorder these if we want to make sure everything looks the way we want to. And it's up to you how much info you want to put inside here. What I would suggest as a bare minimum is the featured image, the name of the post, and what can be useful, especially where you may have post names that are a little bit ambiguous, is we can use another feature that's part of Elementor Custom Skin. What we're going to do is we're just going to simply come down and we're going to say we want to drop in a text editor. Drop that inside there. I'm going to click the little dynamic icon option. And we're going to come down to post summary. And like I say, this is an Elementor Custom Skin feature. We'll click on that and we can click on the little wrench icon and we can specify how many sort of words we want to list inside here. So what we're doing is we're giving it a title and we're giving the first 25 words of the article, which hopefully should help clear up any confusion that may be there. And obviously if you want to, you can do things like drop in the post info. We can drop that underneath there and you can see that'll give us more information again. And we can get rid of anything that we don't want. So for example, the date and time may be the only thing we want. Comments, if you allow them on your blog, site, whatever, up to you. Okay, so once we've done that, we're simply going to select this section and we're going to give it a white background. So we're going to just go to style and we're going to set the background type and we're going to set this to a global color of white and we'll click on publish. Now we're not going to set any conditions, we don't need to. We're going to say save and close, and that's basically created that loop item ready for us to start referencing it. Now even though we've created it, we have no way of editing it yet, and this is where we're going to use the ACF front end plugin to make our life easy. We're going to go back to our widgets, and from there we're just going to type in edit. And you can see we've got a couple of options. We've got edit post form, edit user form, edit button, and so on. We're going to choose the edit button. We're going to drag and drop that onto our page, and we've now got things set up. So we can just make sure everything is configured the way we want it to before we move forward with this. So you can see we've got the button, all the information's there. The link to edit page is all set up for us. The URL query key is set up for us. Everything we need is configured. All we need to do is set the styling on this. I'll do that behind the scenes and style everything else on this so everything looks nice and neat and tidy. And then what we'll do is we'll move on and start working with setting this up. Okay, there's all my styling done. So I'm going to hit update on there and we're going to say save and close. We don't need to add any conditions. Okay, now we've done that, we're going to exit back out of this and we're going to go back to our pages and back to our dashboard. Edit this with Elementor. Once we've done that, we're going to just drop in a post list. So this is very easy to do. We're going to come out to the Pro options, and we're going to drag and drop a post option inside there. We're going to change the skin. We're going to change that to custom. And from there, we can now select the default template. And this is the template we've just created with Elementor Custom Skin. So click, there's our dashboard post loop. We'll click on that, and you can see there's our post loop, our item inserted in there with all the styling, with the edit button, with everything in place. So everything is now looking pretty cool. And as we add new posts in, they will appear inside here as well. Now the way this listing is set up at the moment, it's going to display everybody's posts. It's not going to discriminate between who's logged in, what logged in user you are, all those kinds of things. We need to rectify that, and it's very easy. We're going to use another free plugin. We're going to scroll down when we've got this post section, this post widget selected. I'm going to come to the query option. And inside there, we're going to come right the way down and you can see it says advanced query options. We're going to click and we're going to say dynamic user. This will allow us to filter the information based upon what user is logged in and some various other parameters. So you can see we've got post author is current user, post author is current post archive author, and so on and so forth. We want to set this as post author is current user. So what that's going to do is when we log in, it's going to only show us the posts that are associated with the logged in user's account, which obviously should be you. So once you've done that, we've now set everything up so we can only see our own posts. Okay, so that's that side of things done. We've now configured everything to only show our own content. So let's update this and let's just take a look at this page in action just to see what happens. Let's preview it. Now what this does is this opens up our page, and if we click on the edit post option, that's going to take us over to the edit page. As you can see, edit post, which is the other page we just created. But at the moment, there's nothing on there. So we now need to go ahead and set up all the editing options on this page so that particular article can be edited. Now to keep this tutorial moving along, I've already gone ahead, opened the page up, added in the header and the bio section. Now this is something, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm going to go through a lot of these different things quite quickly because I want to focus on the key, more important things. Okay, that being said, what we need to do now is just add in the ability to start editing. So what we need to do is we're going to do a search for edit, and from there we want the edit post form. We're going to drag and drop that into our page, and this will pull in some basic info. You can see the title and the featured image have been added already. We're going to get rid of the header at the top because we're going to insert that in as a custom header ourselves. Now, it's worth bearing in mind at this point, one of the limitations of the free version of ACF front-end forms is you can't use the styling options. If you come into styling, you can see everything is locked. You have to go pro for that. You can, however, get past some of those limitations by configuring through your theme style how you want things like the different form elements and buttons and things like that to look, and this will basically pick up most of those options. So you still get some basic styling options through Elementor and the theme styles. Now, if you go pro, you get a lot more features, and is one thing that I would recommend taking a look at because the pro offers quite a lot of extra functionality you may find invaluable. Okay, that being said, my little pitch out of the way, let's move on. Okay, so what we can do now is we can come in and we can add in the extra fields that we need. So what we're going to do is we're just limiting this video to just being the default fields that are part of WordPress normal posts, but you can link in advanced custom fields post types if you've added those into your normal posts, or if you created your own custom fields, you know, custom post types and so on, you can still reference a lot of those features. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start adding these extra options in. So we want post content. We want to add in another one, which is going to be the categories. And the final one for this example is going to be tags. Okay, so there's the 5 sections for this particular post to edit it. Now, what we need to do before we move any further is set this up so it pulls in the correct data. You can ignore what's being displayed at the moment. This is just kind of some information that's being pulled in and it's not relevant right now. But what we need to do is we need to come to the post option, and from there we need to set post to edit from current post, and we need to change that to URL query, and post ID is perfectly fine because that's what's going to be passed over via the URL to allow us to edit this post when we select it. So with that being said, we've done what we need to do now. We've set the basics up. We can now go through and configure some of the other options. First of all, let's set our permissions. Only logged in users. Yep, we want to have that inside there. We're going to set this so we know we've only got authors, administrators, and editors that can make any changes to this kind of content. We're going to remove this selected user, and we're going to use the dynamic permissions again like we did earlier, and we're going to set this to be post author. So what we're doing is we're just limiting this to make sure that if someone tries to hijack the link, the URL, which passes the data between the selection and the editing page, we can still restrict it again that if the person that's trying to edit the content is not the author, they can't see any content. So we're just putting that little restriction in there just to help us ease any problems that may arise from people trying to edit other people's content. Okay, so those things being said, what else do we have to do? Well, if we go back into the form structure, you can see that we can edit more information about each one of these fields. So at the moment, we've got content and we've got everything set out inside there. And you can leave most of these as their default because they should be pulling in the correct data for you anyway. But you can reference dynamic tags if you want to for labels and placeholders and things like that. Same goes for instructions if you want to add instructions how to use a particular feature. But because we're not doing anything particularly complex with this, you can kind of just go with what's already set up in there. Hop over to style and you can see we can set things like margins, padding, and also the width of this particular field element based upon, or this form element, based upon the design you're working with. And also you can set that up based upon the device you're actually viewing it on. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to categories and we're going to set the style on there to be 50%. And we're going to do the same thing then for the tags. We're going to go down to style and we're going to set that to be 50% as well. Now when it comes to things like tags and so on, you can specify whether you want to show the labels, whether you want to hide things. So for example, when we come to content, we don't really need to have a field label on there. So if you want to, we can just take that off and people can see exactly what's going on. If you want to reorder these, you can reorder them very easily. So we say we put the featured image at the bottom, we can do just that. So now we've got a simplified form layout all ready for our users to start editing. Actions, we can come into here and you can see what do we want to do after this page has been updated, when we've made a change. You can reload the page, go to a custom URL and so on. We're going to leave it to reload the same page because people may save this and then carry on editing as they go along. You can change the messages, show success messages, all those kinds of really useful things. Come over to the post section. You can see we can change the default title, default featured image if you want to put a placeholder in just in case someone didn't put anything in. Then you can set your post status. So if you want this to go, once a change has been made, back into pending review, for example, you could do just that. Put it into private, draft, whatever you kind of want. We're going to leave it as published though for this. And we've set all these things up. Do we want to offer a delete post option? Now, by default, the only option we have is to edit it from the first listing and then come in and update any changes we make to this. However, if you wanted to, you can drop in a delete, and you can see we can change that to delete post. We can delete whatever we want, delete icon button. All those things are inside there. And again, we've got that redirect after delete. What do you want to do? Well, you could say go to a custom URL, which would make sense. And what we'll do is we'll just say we want to go back to the dashboard. And there we go. So if someone deletes this, it'll go back to the dashboard. And you can see this is kind of picking up the basic styling, which you can set up all through the theme styles that's part of Elementor itself. Permissions we've already set up, display options. If you wanted to and keep this really simple, you can do things like set to show in a modal. So if you wanted this to sort of pop up and edit on the same page as your listings, you could do that kind of thing. Okay, so let's just update our page now and let's test things out. We'll go into our dashboard, we'll edit our post, and you can see there's everything we need to start working. Title, all our content inside the normal editor. We've got categories, tags, featured image, and so on. We can update, we can delete, we can do what we want inside here. So that's the editing section all done. Now let's move on to the create a new post section. Again, I've gone ahead and just inserted the relevant template files to start working on the add post option. So let's find the widget we need. So we're going to scroll on down and we've got new post form. So this is what we're going to use. So we're going to just drag and drop that into our page. And you can see it looks very similar to the edit option. Let's get rid of this title at the top and we can do the same things again. So we can just add in the fields that we want to use. So we want post content. We want to change this now to categories and we want to add in the final one, which is going to be tags. We're going to reorder these like we've done before. We're going to set the categories, the style to be 50%. And the same goes for the tags, style 50%. All sorted on there. And then the content, we're just going to remove that field label. So you can see everything looks pretty much exactly the same. Just this time, it's a blank form ready to take our data in. So what do we have on this option? Again, we've got actions. So we can say reload the current page after the form has been submitted. After reload, clear form, so you can start creating a new post, or you can go to edit form. It's up to you how you'd want to work with this. You can see we've got URL parameters if you want to add those in, preview the redirect URL, show success message. All these things are pretty self-explanatory. Post, you can see if we want to put some default values inside there, we can do. What I really want to do though is change the post status, because when someone creates content on this particular website, I don't want it to automatically be published. I want it to be something that has to be approved by an admin of the site first. And to do that, all we need to do is change the post status from published, and we're going to set that into pending review or draft. It's up to you which way you'd want to go about it. We're going to say pending review. Then we say new post type. You can see we can do posts, pages, and so on. We're going to leave that set to post. We're not going to worry about post terms, but what we have at the bottom is the ability to save these as drafts. So you could have someone that's working on content that they don't want to have submitted for approval yet. It's not ready, but they want to come back and edit it. Well, we can use the draft option. So we can say save as draft as an option. We get an extra button, and we can say show saved draft selection. So you can select the various different drafts you have to carry on editing. All these options are available to you, so if you want to make it a more useful place for people to work when they're creating content, this is a really good way of doing that. If you want to, you can set a save draft description. You have all those options there. Again, permission, you can see permission message, only logged in users. Again, we're going to change this so we have access based upon authors, editors, and administrators, and we're going to get rid of this particular user option. Display options. Again, if you wanted to use a display and modal and so on, all those things are there for you. And like I've said before, your styles are locked to the Pro version, so you'd have to rely upon either editing them manually or using these theme styles that you can build as part of Elementor. Let's just click update on there, and we've now created our add new post form. So provided everything's okay, we can now test this out with things like our links to add a post and everything like that. So let's take that for a spin. We're back into our dashboard. We're going to say add a new post. And from there, we're just going to create our new post. So let's test this out. We're going to call this sample post 2. We'll drop in some basic text inside there. We'll say this is blog and news. We could set a tag if we wanted to. So we could add a new tag and we could just say, doesn't really matter too much. We'd say woohoo. And We're going to close that down, and what we're going to do is add our featured image. So we'll choose this featured image and select. So everything is set now. So if you want to save as a draft, we could do that, but we're going to say submit. So we're going to click on that. That's now tells us at the top, this has been successfully posted, and brings us back now to a blank form so we can start editing and create a new one if we wanted to. Okay, so now we've seen that, if we go back to our dashboard, you can see our post isn't currently showing, and that's because we're only going to see posts that are set up as being approved. Now, because I'm logged in as an administrator, I can come into the post section and I can go into there and I can approve any post that's pending. So you can see sample post 2, the one we just created, is set as pending. So all I need to do is just come into quick edit, and I can change that from pending review, and I can say this is now published, update that. Now if we come back to our dashboard and refresh, there's our new post, which we can come in and we can edit that and do whatever we need to with it. So all those features are in there for us. Now, while we're in the post section, let's just check just to make sure now that everything is working when we're taking a look at whose listings we're going to look at. So, for example, let's take the sample post, the original post. We're going to quick edit that, and we're going to assign this to a different author. So I'm going to assign that there. We'll update it. When we come back to our dashboard, you'll see now we only have sample post 2. Refresh that just to make sure, and you can see we only have that post inside there. If we go back in and we just quick edit this and set it back to my account, update, come back in and refresh, we can see there's both the posts. So we know now that everything is working, so it's only going to list any of the posts that we've got created and associated with our logged in user account. Okay, so come back into the theme builder section because there's one more template that I want to create. I want to build another loop which is going to be used for our list all posts. And this is going to be a kind of a smaller, streamlined way of seeing what posts we have and then going to edit them. So we're going to create a new loop, and we're just going to call this one list all posts. So we're going to just close this down. We're going to hop over to the settings, and we're going to give it a name right at the beginning. And we're just going to say all posts loop dashboard, just so we know exactly what it's referring to. Okay, so with that being done, we can now start building out our design structure for this. So we're going to come back in, and we're just going to create a really simple layout. We're going to set something up like so, and we're just going to set this to be really, really simple. Let's squish this down to maybe 15%, somewhere around there, and we're going to do the same again. We're going to drop an image in. So we'll pull in the featured image, we'll drop that inside there. We'll set that to be small, and we're just going to come back over and we're going to say we want to pull in the post title, and finally we're going to pull in just the post info. Drop that inside there. We can set the styling on this just to make them a little smaller, so we're going to set this to like about H3, and we'll just quickly set our styling up. We'll set that, change our typography like so. There we go, and we'll just quickly do this last section. So we're just going to come into our styles, we're going to come into our text. We'll set this to the lighter text, typography, and set this to something like about 12. And finally, we'll just go to the icon, set that to 12 as well, and change the color on there to our orange. Okay, so we've created a much simpler layout. Actually, let's just add in an extra column at the end. Adjust these up again, like so. And at the end, we're just simply going to drop in that same edit button. So we're going to scroll down until we get to the options, and we're going to say we want the edit button. We'll drag and drop that over there, and then we'll just quickly set everything up on here to be aligned to the center, like so. And we'll just set the background of this to be white. So these are all just things just to quickly show you how things are going to work. Okay, so with that side of things in place, like I say, I'm not worrying too much about styling everything. I would spend more time on this. We'll publish that. We'll save without adding any conditions. Then we're going to come back out of here, and we're going to go into our pages, and we're going to open up our all posts. Edit that with Elementor, and like I've done before, I've simply just created the header section and the bio section and set everything up ready. So we need to do the same thing again. We're going to grab this posts option. We're going to drag that onto our page. Going to change this over to use custom, and we're going to change that to use all post loop dashboard. Set this up then the way we want. So we're going to say that we want to restrict this to only displaying the one row. Let's close our layout down. Sorry, I'm going to come down to the bottom of our layout. Column set to 1. We're going to set this to something like about 10 posts per page. We'll set the query then, like we've done before. Posts is perfectly fine. And what we need to do is come down to our advanced query options, dynamic user option, post author is current user. And we're going to set the pagination like so. So now we've created a really simplified listing of more articles that'll give us more content as opposed to our dashboard homepage, which just kind of gives us a selection of the most recent posts. We'll update that, and we've pretty much set everything up on there. Okay, so we are pretty much on the home stretch now. We just need to do one real final thing, and that's change this navigation to give us some sense of the pages we need to access, and also put a logout option inside there. So let's come back out of this, and let's just hop over into our menu structure. So we're just going to do a search for menus. We'll go into there, and we'll create a new menu, and we're just going to call this dashboard menu. And we'll save that, we'll create it, and now we can just add what we want inside there. So we want dashboard, we want add post, all posts, edit posts, add that inside there. And we're also going to add a custom link, which we're just going to call logout. Now, to create a logout link is fairly simple and straightforward. We just need to add a little bit of extra information onto the end of the normal domain for this particular site. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in the URL for the site itself, and then at the end of it, we're going to add this extra little bit of code on. Now this will be in the description below so you can see exactly what we're doing. But we're just adding this extra little block on that just says after whatever domain it is that we want to use wplogin.php action equals logout, and that'll create our custom logout. So we'll add that at the end. There we go. So that's our setup. We're going to take it the edit post, because obviously that doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's our setup for our dashboard. We'll save that menu, and now what we can do is we can edit that and add that into our header template. So if we go back to just one of our pages, for example, we go into our dashboard page, we'll edit that quickly, and what we'll do is we'll just change that up there. We'll change that from main menu to dashboard menu, and you can see there's our dashboard menu in place with everything we need. So we've pretty much built out a very simple dashboard, which is restricted to only the logged in users' details. They can add posts, they can edit posts, they can delete posts, they can create drafts of posts. This is a great way of keeping your clients out of their website's admin. But there's one more thing I want to show you, because if they know what the URL is to get to the admin, they can still kind of access it. So we need to stop them from doing that. The nice thing is ACF Front-End Forms allows us to do just that. Now, this isn't geared towards working with, lots and lots of users and tons of people that can log in and all that kind of thing. This is more intended for smaller sites that have a small selection of users that can add content, edit content, and so on. But what we can do is we can come into any of the users. So we'll come into all users. There's my test editor, which is set up using the editor role. We're going to edit that particular user. And if we scroll down, there's an option added in by ACF Front-End Forms called Hide Admin Area. We'll check that, update the user, and now that user can't access the admin. They'll be pushed back to the site to log in, and they can't access it. So we give ourselves an extra little level of protection, knowing they can't get into the places they shouldn't, but they've got their nice front-end dashboard to work with to add content and do all those kinds of useful things. So there we go. That's everything now in place. Our dashboard, our add posts. You can see I've done a little bit of styling through the theme styles just to make everything look a little better. This is spending a couple of minutes. You can obviously spend a lot more time. All posts. So you can see we can edit our posts direct from here if we want to. We can come in, edit our post, and our edit post page is all set up and styled as well. Finally, there's the logout option, which says, are you sure you want to log out? And we can hit logout, and we are done. It takes us back to the login section. So that's how we can create our custom dashboard without spending any money on top of Elementor Pro. Now, taking this topic further while still using many of the tools and the techniques covered in this guide is absolutely and entirely possible. And I suggest checking out this video you can see next to help you add even more functionality to your skill set and your WordPress toolkit. Now, if you found value in this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, smash the subscribe button, and hit that bell icon. But if you didn't find it useful, well, feel free to hit that thumbs down button twice, because that seems to work pretty well too. As always, all of the applicable links for everything covered are in the description. And if you have any comments, questions, or feedback or anything, drop those in the comment section. My name has been Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.